All right, today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, and this is the City of Evanston Plan Commission meeting. First order of business is determination whether we have a quorum. Ms. Jones, if you could call the roll, please.
Commissioner Draper?
Here.
Commissioner Halleck?
Here.
Commissioner Hugo?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Linwall? Commissioner Westerberg?
Here.
Chair Isaac?
Here.
Okay, you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Next item is, again, we'll need a motion to end the rules to allow us to conduct this meeting via Zoom. Do I have such a motion?
Sure, I'll move to suspend the rules.
Thank you, Commissioner Halleck. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Westerberg seconds. Ms. Jones, please call the roll. Vote on the motion.
Commissioner Draper?
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg?
Yes.
Chair Isaac?
Yes. All right, the motion passes. We will continue with the meeting. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from our meeting of September 30th, 2020. Are there any comments or corrections from the commissioners with respect to the proposed meeting minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 30, 2020?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Halleck, is there a second?
I'll second.
Westerberg seconds. Ms. Jones, please call the roll to vote.
Commissioner Westerberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo?
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck?
Yes.
Commissioner Draper?
Yes.
Chair Isaac?
Yes. All right, the meeting minutes of September 30, 2020 are approved. Next item on our agenda is the only item on our agenda. It's old business. It's the plan development for 1900 Sherman Avenue, 20 LND-0039. This is a continuation of this matter from a meeting in, my recollection is correct, either August or early September. And so staff, are you going to just quickly present any changes or updates to this item, and then we'll give the applicant a chance to expand on that.
Sure. There's not a staff presentation this evening. There are no changes to the plans. However, there were a couple clarifications that the applicant made since the September 9th meeting. I'll let the applicant speak to those regarding the age restriction, the affordability, and the ownership of the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mangum. Who will be presenting those items from the applicant?
I will be William James, Camaros Limited, representing the Housing Authority.
Thank you.
And are we ready for those?
Please.
Okay. So there was some ambiguity or question mark regarding three aspects of our proposal. One was the application of the age restriction. The second was the age restriction for the missing middle units, and the third was the ownership structure of the project. With respect to the age restriction, it was the Housing Authority's intent to apply a 55 and over age restriction to all heads of households. That would be all lessees in the building. However, our legal counsel advised us that fair housing requires that this age restriction be applied to only 80% of the units. And so that is our position on that. The second point of clarification is the age restriction on the missing middle units. And after some debate, we have settled on 80% to 120%. And this is the age, income level that HUD recognizes as affordable. And so that is what we're going with. And then the third point of clarification is the ownership structure and the recently amended state law with respect to, it was amended or created, but a state law that allows housing authorities to develop mixed income properties, which was passed recently, requires that there be a partnership between the housing authority and a private developer, private entity. And it is the housing authority's intention to conform to the state law by having a 1% interest with a private developer. We are in negotiations with a private developer to obtain that 1% interest. We believe that would satisfy the state law, and that is why we are, in fact, going into this partnership strictly to satisfy the state law.
Mr. James, very quickly, the housing authority would retain 99% and the private developer would be a 1% owner?
That's correct.
Anything else, Mr. James?
No, those are all the clarifications we were asked to provide. And we made a full presentation at the last Plan Commission meeting. We have our presentation available if any of the commissioners would like to go back and revisit that. I coordinated with Scott Mangum on the matter of the presentation. He said, no, you made the presentation before, and you should only be prepared to answer questions. We have our full team available if there are questions that people want us to go back and represent certain aspects of the presentation, we can do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. All right, so as a reminder, this is a continuation of our last meeting. So the order of what we're going to be doing tonight is I will take questions from the public. And Ms. Jones, is there a list of people that wanted to speak tonight?
There is. I did send that to you through email, but I've got it as well.
Can you resend it, because I don't think it came through. So we'll take questions from the public, but what I would ask is that the questions be limited to those items that have changed. So this brief presentation by Mr. James. So if you have questions about that, and then I would ask, I believe it was Mr. Erdenbach, if I'm remembering correctly, who had made the objection or the request for the continuance. So we will allow him to present the evidence that he's gathered since the last meeting, and then we will open it up to we'll open it up to comments from the public, and that'll bring us back to our normal order of meeting. So with that, let me pull up the list. And again, if you didn't sign up ahead of time, but you have questions, I can see that some people are saying they have questions. I will call on you to ask questions of the applicant if your questions have not already been asked by other members of the public. It looks like this list was only for comments. So let me see, where is this? Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties here. All right, so there is a way in Zoom for you to raise your hand, and I will see that you have your hand raised, and I will call on you if you have questions. It looks like, let's see, looks like a Claire Kelly has made a comment. Do you have Ms. Kelly, do you have a question of the applicant to expand on your comment here? To bring
All
in.
right, I just would like a little more clarification. I've written to my Alderman Judy Fisk, who hasn't explained to me, the structure is still not clear to me. So if you could just walk us through a little bit, who owns the land, who's going to own the building? You say it's 1% private developer. I think we just need, since this is an unusual arrangement, I think that was a little bit brief. I think we could use a little more in-depth explanation as to the structure of ownership, who owns the affordable housing unit. I mean, how does this break down, and why are we, you know, if you could elaborate, like, and who's purchasing, I mean, a CHA buying the, I don't understand. I think it's a little bit still fuzzy.
I'm going to call on our project attorney, Amy Kurson. But first, just let me say that essentially the Housing Authority owns the property. There is an LLC that was established to actually formally hold ownership. As I mentioned, there was a state law recently passed that would enable housing authorities to engage in mixed income development. And this required some partnership with a private developer, perhaps, so that there's not a direct competition between housing authorities and private developers. I'm not sure what the intent was, but that is the reason for our intention to enter into a 1% ownership agreement with a private developer. We are in discussions with that private developer. We feel it's inappropriate to name the developer at this time until the agreement has been fully negotiated and executed. And I would like Amy to really go into the details of who actually owns the property, what the name of the entity is, and how it relates to the housing authority.
But wait, why can't we know the name of the developer? I mean, that's a big deal.
Well, because it hasn't been finalized, and until it's finalized, it may not happen. We wouldn't want to say who the developer is if we don't actually come to agreement with that developer.
So this is Rich Monacchio. Bill, let me, before Amy Kurson talks, I'll address this directly because it is not confusing at all, actually. So the land is owned by the Housing Authority. This is really a public infrastructure project. It's going to be wholly owned by the Housing Authority. We're putting all the equity in, save for the 1% that Mr. James mentioned. And the reason why that's happening is because the state law that has been actually on the books for about 20 years was recently amended. It was amended to include the Cook County Housing Authority. So the Chicago Housing Authority and the Cook County Housing Authority can develop mixed income projects. However, both of those entities must have a private developer.
I thought he said they were allowed to have. I didn't think he said must.
They must. We could not do this project legally without it. Now, we own all the land and we're going to put in 99% of the equity and we're going to retain ownership in perpetuity. This is a public infrastructure project.
Mr. Monacchio, just to clarify the timeline, and you can push this off to your counsel if need be, but to clarify the timeline, the HACC has been allowed to have, build mixed income developments, but pursuant to a recent amendment, they are now required to have a private developer joint partnership in order to do so. Is that
actually? No, I'm sorry if I was confusing. So the Chicago Housing Authority, not the Housing Authority of Cook County, had the authority to develop mixed income housing. the provision that the private entity be involved has always been there. During our due diligence, as we were working on this project and getting the documents together, we actually discovered the fact that the law needed to be changed to include the Housing Authority of Cook County. So that was what was done recently. The provision that the private party be involved has always been in the law.
Okay, and so how long have you guys been working on getting a joint partner on this deal? Is this something that just recently came up, or is it something that's being disclosed to us now?
No, like Bill said, I mean, I have no reason not to say it, but we've been, in conversations with this group for several months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything, and I'm sorry, I forget the name of your counsel. Is there anything that your counsel wants to add?
Amy Curson.
Amy?
Hi, Amy Kirsten here. No, the only thing I would like to add is that on our economic disclosure statements, we did point out that in the future there may be a transaction that would need to be disclosed to Evanston. At this time, the economic disclosure statements are accurate. There's a supplemental letter with that. But Rich has perfectly explained the statute and the setup, and that's all been as clear as we can, make it to the city at this time.
Okay. I actually have a few follow-up questions on Ms. Kelly's initial question. With respect to the joint ownership, is it anticipated that the developer will own a fee title interest, or is it going to be a membership interest in this LLC? That's part one. And then part two, is that LLC also an owner of the existing building and project, or is it going to be more of a ground lease situation where the partnership's only relating to the development that's being discussed here?
Amy, do you want to go, or do you want me to tackle that?
Oh, no, I think, Rich, you and Alicia are probably in a better position to answer that question.
Okay, so this is actually going to be a different the LLC that owns the building next door at 1900 Sherman. We're the general partner. The tax credit investor is the 99% owner, and we're 1%. This project is going to be separated out, fee simple, and as I mentioned, in order to satisfy the state law, the private partner has to be involved in the project. But exactly how that's going to be, we're still negotiating it. But again, I think that for the commission and the public, this is clearly a public Cook County Housing Authority project, right? It's a very considerable expense has already been put into this, and we're gonna, we're the ones that are gonna be signing the loan documents with the bank and putting the equity in. So, in terms of the LLC ownership and what form the private partner is going to take, whatever it is, it's going to be limited to 1%.
Okay, and so the HACC will retain control and major decision control with respect.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kelly, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Can you explain why, the Housing Authority, why there is an interest in investing, I guess, our tax dollars, right, in luxury units? Because not all of these, only a few of these, a small percentage of these are affordable. So why are you interested in creating luxury units? Is this with tax dollars? I'm just still a little bit confused. And then my other question is,
well, can I answer the first one first, so I can get to the second one? I'd be happy to answer your question. Fact is that this project is going to be built with 0 development subsidies. So we're getting no development subsidies for this. So when you say luxury units, fact is, we are building this as a housing authority with resources we have, most notably the property that we own and equity that we have gathered because we have done other development deals. And this is being used. The whole reason we're putting market rate units here is so we can bring 51 affordable apartments on the site. That's the only way to do it. So, you know, I would argue that this is a great use of taxpayers' dollars because 51 affordable units are being provided into an area that sorely needs it without any development subsidies. There's nowhere near enough tax credits or other money to build affordable housing. So yes, this is a very unique idea that we have. And I don't know how often it's been done, that where a public entity has done this, but I can tell you this, that the property itself will be the legacy of the housing authority, and any cash flow that comes out of this will be pumped into the housing authority. So this is a great benefit actually to the taxpayers and a huge public benefit in terms of the provision of affordable housing.
Except that we're under occupied for luxury units. We don't really need, why don't you, I mean,
It's not-
ideally for our,
That's not the information we have.
Okay, well,
We have
I'm
our
not
market
sure.
analyst
where
on
you-
the,
Right, well,
I want to address that too, because I've heard this now for a month. We have to fill this building. It will be filled. We're going to have a long list, and 51 of the units, the affordable units, we're going to have thousands and thousands of people on the list for that. And we believe this site and this building is going to be of such quality that we are absolutely positively going to fill every unit. We have to, or else we can't pay our loan.
right, and what if you don't? So that's why, I mean, this is really problematic that we're building yet more luxury units when we see many of these buildings in downtown Evanston right now. Not only are they destroying our downtown visually and aesthetically, but they aren't even filled, so.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kelly, this is not a forum for argument back and forth. If you have questions to elicit more information, you will have time to make your comments and about the project, in shortly. Any other questions, Ms. Kelly? No. Okay. Thank you. Looks like.
Hi. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Isaac. I have a question. Of the age restriction, 55 and older, it said that the Fair Housing's asking for, you're going to go with 80% of the units. Is that going to be affordable? Is that going to be affordable for the 55 and older?
So, Mr. James, the question is, the 55 and older, is that applied equally
Affordable
to the affordable units and non-affordable units, or are you anticipating that it's just going to be, you're going to get to 80% somewhere, and it could be,
Easy mixture. I mean, we are not intending to place a higher standard on the age restriction to the market or the affordable units. And we want to make sure that we serve as many local affordable needs as we can. So I think there's some flexibility in terms of how that's applied. But that is our goal is applying the age restriction to 80% of the heads of household in the unit, and it could be any composition.
Remind us. I'm sorry, Ms. Delbosque. I just want to expand on this really quick. The number of units in this building is going to be, is it 168 in the new building? Okay, the new building 168, and 51 are going to be affordable. And so you're saying that you could conceivably have 117 that are 55 and older, like all the market rates are 55 and older, and and you hit the other, the balance of your required 80% with the affordable, or is it going to be 80% of the affordable will be 55 and over, and 80% of the market will be 55 and older?
Can I just jump in here, please?
Yes.
Sir, it is our intent that this is a lifestyle, older American lifestyle building. It's our intent that it's all going to be occupied by folks 55 and over as head of household.
Okay.
I think so. That's the intent. Now, in terms of like, do we have the breakdown and so forth? The law says that we can't unreasonably deny 20% of the units, and maybe Amy can jump in here, but this is just a purely out of the Fair Housing Act is the only reason why this is even coming up. So we fully intend to lease to folks that are 55 and over, because that's what the whole building is going to be geared towards.
I understand, and with all due respect, and I appreciate Mr. Isaac trying to outline the numbers here. Where I'm getting at is that I'm well versed in the senior industry. So as we know, 55 plus, they're on fixed incomes. So if we're on fixed incomes, let's say we're in fixed income, the missing middle is 80%. More seniors are losing their jobs day by day with the silver tsunami that's already high, and it's a high number. So how are we going to be able to say, as a community, if we approve this, 51% is affordable housing for older Americans, lifestyle building, with 80% of the units for affordable housing for older people, and then 80% hub? It doesn't make sense. The numbers do not make sense. Number one. Number two, bear with me.
Okay.
Back to the ownership, I would like to make sure if this moves forward, that this property does not get resold again. We know that development sells within 3 to 5 years. Here in Evanston, it's a pattern being seen. I mean, they'll go in and they'll sell at least 2 times. And so we would like to have the transparency of the 1% developer, who they are before this place gets developed. Another thing, number 3, if you're going to be an older American lifestyle building, do you have anything in place for memory care, assisted living? I'm going back to that again. As City of Evanston, we're not taking care of our older adults. We're just building and building and building 50 plus senior living with nothing in place to age.
All right, so
So my
There's 3
question is,
Take the
will any of this have any type of aging in place? No.
Well, this is aging in
So it's
place,
just
but
gonna
it's an
be one of the
independent.
other Abador.
Can I finish, please?
No, because I'm not finished. So I'm asking, is this gonna be another senior living place like Abador and the one that's being built right now on Ridge? That's my question.
This is independent living for people that are 55 and over. It's not a memory care building.
Right, with a fixed income. So that extra that you have to build on top to make up for the 51 units, where is that coming from?
Okay, thank you for asking that, because let me try to explain how this works. So this is being done by a public entity. We need the rents that are going to be generated from the market rate units in order to build the 51 affordable units, okay? 51 units is a lot, it's a ton of money. So we're subsidizing the 51 affordable units with the market rate units. That's how this is working. It's internally subsidizing the affordable units. We're not getting any developments. I'm not going to
say we don't need affordable units. We need affordable units. We do. But how about affordable units, work with Connections for the Homeless, and provide what y'all went into business for to begin with, family housing.
Ms. Del Bosque,
I would love to build family housing. I'm going to do that next.
I'm not asking next. We don't need that next. We have 300 families that are homeless in our school district. Do you not get that? We don't need another senior housing unless you happen to gentrify wards 5 and 2, and now we know where our mixed or affordable housing is coming from.
Ms. Del Bosque,
We take care our community.
Excuse me. This is way too much comment and not enough questions. So unless you have a concise question.
So my question is, why have y'all not discussed with the city of Evanston with this age restriction to release an age restriction and not provide a secure family for our District 65 families and our DTO2 families? Why were you thinking about that? That's my question.
Application,
that one.
Ms. Delbosque, the application is for a 55 and older building. That's what it is. That's what we're looking at. So, Mr. James, Mr. Menacchio.
Question is, as a Latina, the only Latina in this probably room, maybe two of us, why are we not thinking, the city of Evanston, of taking care of our homeless families?
Who are you asking the question of?
I'm asking the developers or the housing authority. I'm asking the city of Evanston, Scott Magnum. Why are we not doing that? That's all I'm going to leave you with, and I will make my comments at the end.
Thank you, Ms. Delbosque.
I have a really short question.
Do you want me to answer that or no?
Kelly,
Mr. Isaac?
please.
So it's a great question, actually. Part of what we do is house homeless families. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm putting the numbers together now, but we've housed either in our apartments or with vouchers over 1,000 homeless families. So your point is very well taken. But the fact is there's a need for all kinds of affordable housing. And we have a study that was done in Evanston in 2018 that shows a tremendous need for affordable housing for older folks. Well, I don't disagree with you one bit, and we're going to do that. Has to be done as well. But I really want to, and I really want, Amy, could you address this? Because this whole thing with the 80% in the Fair Housing Act, I don't want that to get confusing because this was just sprung upon me as well. So I
yeah, absolutely. Sure. The Fair Housing Act says that if you're going to market a building as targeted to people over 55, that no less than 80% of the units need to have heads of household who are over 85, or over 55, sorry. So 80% is the threshold, 55 is the age. Okay, so 80% is the minimum. I think people were asking, you know, can you combine the affordable units and the market rate units? And sometimes you'll have some that are under 80% or over 80%. There's no limit on how many older people we can put into the buildings, right? There's no limit on how many people you can put in who are over 55. So the Housing Authority of Cook County has determined that it is intending to make this a senior lifestyle building. They're going to try to make it appealing to people who are over 55 and accordingly likely have more than that baseline minimum of 80%. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kirsten. All right, Kira Kelly is the next person who has her hand up.
Hi, and this I guess is a question either for the city or the developer. In their application, I see here it says studio, for affordable housing, there are 16 affordable units, 1 bedroom, 18 affordable units. So that's 34 affordable units. I know there's this missing middle, but nonetheless, that rent is $1,600, $1,700. So does the city count, since this is the only, you know, the 34 is the number on this application, does the city count this as having 34 affordable units or is it 51? Because I mean, I just did a Google search and there's lots of, you know, that's sort of like a vintage, a price for a studio or a 1 bedroom of naturally occurring middle, I guess. So is this affordable housing, you know, is it 34 or is it 51? Because the application says 51. So.
34, okay. The Evanston Inclusionary Housing Ordinance has a standard of 20% of the units being affordable at either 50% AMI or 60% AMI for housing developments that are financed with public dollars, which this is. Okay, so that was the requirement. It is possible to provide a fee in lieu of, which frankly all of the other high-rise
not all, no.
Okay, was our understanding that nobody has conformed to the requirement at this time. Maybe some have provided,
MLB.
but had not met the ordinance in full. So the ordinance standard is 20% for this type of project, and we are providing 34, but we are exceeding the AMI requirement by reserving these for people with incomes of 50% or less of the average area median income. So that is what we're doing. The missing middle is an additional, we think, an additional public benefit targeted to people who have too much income to qualify for rental assistance, but do not have incomes that will allow them to rent market rate units in this area. So that is an additional benefit that we have talked to the city for a long time about. They're very supportive of that. That's how we get to the 51 assisted units.
Does the city, maybe this is a question for Scott, does the city, is there 34, technically, are there 34 affordable units or is it 51?
So the 34 units provided, the 20% of the units complies with the inclusionary housing ordinance by being at 50% AMI, where 60% AMI or lower would be required. So those are the units that comply with the IHO. The other units are in addition to that.
Okay, so I think for the purposes of this conversation, I know Rich mentioned there was 51 affordable housing units. Is it fair to say there's 34 and then the benefit is, $1,600 missing middle apartments?
Hi, this is Amy Kirsten, the attorney for the Housing Authority. In the Evanston Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, there is a definition provided for middle income housing or middle income households. So this missing middle that we're talking about is included in the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, and it is one of Evanston's priorities.
Okay, I'm just confused because it's not in the application, and everything I've seen, it has a different. It has a.
Ms. Kelly, you and I talked about this Monday night too, and I appreciated our conversation. So let me just try to simplify it. There is 51 affordable because under the ordinance, we could just provide the 34, right? At 50% of AMI for very low income. But we chose to do 17 more units that are affordable to the average person. So the average person can live in this building now, whereas before, if we didn't do this, they wouldn't be able to because those 17 rents would be higher. So I will argue vociferously that there are 51 in there, understanding that what you're saying about strictly under the ARO, yes. But we're providing, and this is a huge public benefit, as Bill said. We're doing it because these units, we wanted to have more affordability in the building.
And we wanted to have a mix of incomes. I think it's very important to understand that this is the whole crux of the development, is to provide affordable housing within the context of a mixed income development where you're not segregating people of different incomes, but actually mixing them together, where we have people at the lower end of the scale, the middle end of the scale, and at the upper end of the scale. And as Rich said, only through this model can we provide the revenue needed to subsidize the affordable units.
Okay, that may be so, but I think per Scott, this building has 34 affordable housing units. Is that correct, Scott?
The requirement of the IHO for a rental building is to have 20% of the units, which would be 34, comply with the 60% AMI or lower. And so it complies with that requirement.
Okay.
So not 51, Scott.
No.
The requirement of the ordinance is the 20%.
Yeah, we understand the ordinance. We want to know what the proposal actually includes.
They've described that additional, those 34 plus additional 17 units between 80 and 120% AMI.
So the proposal includes what's required by the, we're calling it the AHO, is that, or IHO?
IHO.
IHO. And the proposal also includes 17 additional units meeting the...
Which also, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think this may be helpful. The Evanston Inclusionary Housing Ordinance includes a definition of affordable dwelling units. And that definition includes the missing middle target units that we're talking about tonight. So yes, there's a 20% requirement for 60% of AMI. We are meeting that. But Evanston's definition of affordable housing does include these, I'll just read it's called middle income households. So the units that are being provided for middle income households, the way that's defined in the inclusionary housing ordinance, they do meet the definition of affordable housing. So I think we're just kind of, I think we're clear on how many units are being provided. We're maybe going around and around about what this definition is.
So
Well, it's just that on the literal application, when it talks about the affordable housing units, it doesn't, it just talks about, you know, the 34 check the box of affordable.
Ms.
Anyway,
Kelly, it's very clear from the applicant's response and from Mr. Mangum's response that there are 34 units, and those 34 units make this project comply with the IHO. The developer is also setting aside 17 more units that would otherwise comply with the middle income household definition of affordable housing. And then the balance of the units will be market rate. That's the answer. That's what the applicant's saying. That's what the answer is. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Kelly?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I have a really quick question though.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kelly. You had not.
This is really cogent to what it's just really short. We really need to have, can we please get a copy of your market analysis? Because the big concern is that we're going to lose both taxpayers and what is your market analysis? Can we have access to that where you show that, the occupancy rates?
It was part of the supporting documents in the application. I believe it's online.
So where it shows occupancy rates in Evanston for luxury units, because the concern here is, of course, you know, right, that this is taxpayers paying for this building, and then you're relying on luxury units when we don't need any then to pay in order to have affordable units.
I mean, it's not a question of just building to need. We need them to finance.
And if you can't fill them? And what happens if you can't fill them?
And there is market demand for these units in this location.
What happens if you can't fill them? The developer is going to benefit. That's for sure. That's who's going to benefit. Absolutely. What happens when you can't fill those luxury units? That's a question.
We believe we will fill them, and we've had a market study. We have a market expert. But, I believe he's on the call if you want to reference.
So in the meantime, our tax dollars are going to pay for this building. You may not even be able to fill those luxury units, and you're using those, you're saying you're counting on those in order to supply affordable housing units. Yes. This sounds like a very shaky proposal to me.
You could say that of any development that you don't know you'll be able to fill the units.
Yeah, but this is a taxpayer dollars, sir.
Yeah. Rich has gone over the financing.
Well, you know, the only thing I would say to that is, you know, it isn't something that, is Eric on the phone, on the line? Because I wouldn't be building this, believe me, if I didn't have full confidence based upon a market study done by an expert, that the demand is there. But let me address the issue of taxpayer dollars. Okay?
And I'm here.
Okay, so let me just say this though, because they, you know, there's no private developer that's building affordable housing, really. That would build 51 units in this location. It would not be done. So I will argue vociferously for that.
Ms. Kelly,
no, it's an important question.
This is not a question anymore.
Well, I have to respond. That's my response. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No worries. So I have a follow-up question to Ms. Kelly's question, and just two questions, and this is either for either you gentlemen with the HACC or Ms. Curson. Number one, is the existing building on the site, is it deed restricted for affordable housing, or is it just by virtue of HACC's ownership that it's age restricted? I'm sorry, that it's income restricted.
It's deed restricted.
Okay, there's a deed restricted. That's number one. Number two, do you anticipate that part two is parts. Do you anticipate that the financing for this new building will encumber the existing project, number one? And number two, is there any chance that if this project doesn't pan out, okay, if it doesn't work, you're not able to rent it, and it goes back to the lender that finances the money for the construction, that the deed restrictions the deed restriction on the existing parcel, on the existing building, would be wiped out?
No, there's no threat of that, Mr. Chairman. It's a completely separate transaction.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see. There was Ms. Rosinski, Mary Rosinski. Look, you have your hand up. You have to take yourself off mute. Here you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things in Evanston is that we have a great disparity between AMI of Black and white and minority. And I'm wondering, does that take into consideration in this? Like how many units, like are they 2-bedroom units or the 1-bedroom units in the distribution of the affordable units? And is there any consideration for the disparity in income?
So we based our income levels on the HUD definition of AMI for this community, for Evanston, which does not distinguish between white and Black AMI. So I believe the AMI is around $70,000, could be 68. So that's the AMI for Evanston. And so when we're talking about 50% AMI, you're talking about incomes of $35,000 or $34,000 a year. Those are the people that we're serving, and under. Okay, so those are the people that we are serving, and I believe it will benefit African American families and households as much as white. And if there is a greater percentage of African American households that fall into that category, then they will benefit more.
Okay. Ms. Rosinski, if you have a follow-up question, you have to take yourself off mute.
The last question I had is, so the difference is significant in Evanston. I think it's about 70,000 for white and about 40,000, 45,000 for Black. So can consideration be made so that we ensure that there is some equity in this? Thank you.
Well, I believe the Housing Authority has the flexibility to consider all the applicants that it gets. It's said that it anticipates that the vast majority of units will go to Evanston households. It's been able to do that on other projects. And if it chooses to take the lowest income applicants first, it can do that.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to flip through here and see if anyone has their hands up the old-fashioned way. Doesn't look like it. Okay. With that, we will move to public comment, and we're going to begin with Mr.
Sure, Isaac. I do see a hand raised in the video of Jim Edgren is how it's addressed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I did not see that. Mr. Edgren, please. Or Mr. and Mrs. Edgren.
Yes. I had a question. Could you give, we've been flying around with a lot of talk of what the requirements are in percentages, but in terms of numbers, what's the breakdown on the units? How many number of units are non-subsidized and how many number of units?
I'll answer that question. The application is for a building that contains 168 units. 34 of those will be the affordable housing required by the IHO of the city of Evanston. Okay, another 17 on top of the 34 will be restricted to middle income households as defined in the city of Evanston IHO. That adds up to 51 units, leaving 117 units that will be market rate. Okay, so that's the breakdown. 34, 17, 117.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions? All right, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so Mr. Enenbach, you will go first, having requested the continuance at our prior meeting. Please.
Thank you. I think can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Isaac, Commissioners, my name is Bruce Enenbach. I live at 723 Emerson, easily within 500 feet. Although I do appreciate the affordable housing aspects of this project, all of what is described as mitigation relative to its mass outlined in the proposal ultimately fails, as there's nothing that can overcome the building being simply way too massive and out of scale for its location. The developer requests that the city approve 2 zoning changes. 1, a map amendment to change the zoning from R6 residential to C1A commercial. And 2, then a special use for the C1A to allow multi-family residential in a commercial zone. This would seem to be inappropriate. And it appears to be just finding a loophole, exploiting our zoning code to avoid a 2/3 majority vote requirement at council. Additionally, how can we allow a C1A commercial zoning where there's no commercial even contemplated? There is no commercial activity proposed for this project. Can a commercial zoning even be permitted in such a case? That would make no sense. Developers come to our town and propose projects that are way out of line with our zoning. They do so in full knowledge of our zoning requirements, and they expect us to make major adjustments. And they say that their project just isn't feasible without the city granting enormous variances. It is not our job to make our zoning conform to their project. It is their job to make their project conform to our zoning, or do something else. Evanstonians are more than justifiably fed up with giving away the store. Further, the developer states that this development is consistent with established city plans and development policies, including the North Downtown Plan. The North Downtown Plan was proposed but never adopted by the council. And in any event, if the developer is going to cite adherence to this plan, it should be noted that said plan excluded all of Sherman Avenue north of Emerson as being not in the area to be considered for more development. Nor is this project transitional in height. Additionally, it should be noted that the height of the link was intentionally constrained to the height of the existing Pearlman building. So should this project be so constrained. Also, please allow me to just mention parenthetically that this project is only masquerading as an affordable housing project. It is a bit of a bait and switch. What was originally a 30% market, 70% affordable project will somehow become a 70% market and a 30% affordable project, thus becoming just another regular project, albeit admirably providing affordable housing rather than the usual fee in lieu experience. The 10% missing middle, although perhaps nice, does not qualify as affordable under our ordinance. And only the 20% or the 34 units are affordable as defined and required by our city ordinance. Accordingly, we implore this commission to abide with our zoning laws and reject this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Enenbach. All right, so going down the list, looks like there's at least 12 or 13 people that have signed up. And again, if you didn't sign up, stick around. I will call on you once we've gotten through the list. As a reminder to everyone, you will have 2 minutes to speak. I will, as soon as you start talking, I will start the timer. When you hear it going off, please respect everyone else's time and come to a concise conclusion to your comments. With that, there is a Ms. Vanderwicken. Sarah Vanderwicken, you are first on my list.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Could you not start the timer until I say my name?
No problem.
Good evening. Again, my name is Sarah Vanderwicken. I live across the street from the proposed new building in the Sherman Garden Cooperative Apartments. I'm the vice president of the Residents Association, but I'm not here representing the association or other residents in my comments. Sherman Gardens, which is a 5-building complex next door to Lou Malnati's, was built in 1947 as housing for veterans. With 7 stories and a massive footprint, it was at the time undoubtedly one of the biggest and tallest building projects around. I imagine there was considerable public consternation on the part of neighbors, but most people could understand that the veterans coming back from World War II needed housing. Today, Evanston again has an uncontroverted need for more housing that is affordable to people, including seniors who are not wealthy. Although the city prides itself on diversity, including economic diversity, many of our citizens have had to move away because they simply cannot afford it. Others are living in overcrowded or otherwise unstable situations that have significant impacts on health and well-being. This proposal will provide over 50 seniors with stable housing that they would not otherwise be able to afford. Compared to the need, many of the objections I have heard seem slight indeed. People object to the inconveniences of less parking and more traffic, the changing of views to which they are accustomed, etc. Many of the objections ignore the realities that make it difficult to provide more affordable housing. The lack of available land in Evanston, the need for greater density and height to make it financially feasible, and zoning codes that embody exclusionary assumptions of an earlier time. The proposal for the addition of the Pearlman building at 1900 Sherman seems an almost perfect opportunity to meaningfully address housing needs, since the Housing Authority already owns the land and has an excellent track record in its management of the Pearlman apartments next door. Plus, the genuinely mixed income nature of the proposal is a wonderful reflection of the diversity of which Evanston is so publicly proud. We in Sherman Gardens and the rest of our neighborhood enjoy living within walking distance of the L, the library, and the rest of downtown Evanston. The opportunity to provide stable and affordable housing to over 50 people in need of it, plus all that our area offers, is something to celebrate. It is a wonderful spot to live, for which I am truly grateful, and to which I welcome our new neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vanderwicken. Let's see. Next on my list is Polly Kuehl. Did I pronounce that correctly, hopefully?
It's close, thank you. I'm Polly Kuehl. I live at 2320 Central Street in Evanston. And I'm talking and speaking in great support of the project. I look at this from three different perspectives. First of all, I am a HAC member on their board of directors, and I've been extremely proud to serve with that organization. They have been so creative and so successful in offering affordable housing. And the service needs that they're able to meet are outstanding compared to most housing authorities. I've also been a longtime resident of Evanston and am just as proud to live here because of the diversity that they actually support along the North Shore, and their recognition of the fact that affordable housing is really needed. The third perspective is that I've worked in the affordable housing field, development and property management for over 40 years. It is extremely hard to meet the needs of that missing middle. And this project provides not only the subsidy for people at the lower ends, but it provides for people just above that subsidy levels that are hardly ever served in other mixed income housing. And this property would be able to serve that group that, again, most mixed income housing cannot serve. I actually think the development is an improvement to that corner. I think the look of the building is much more consistent with how downtown Evanston has developed. And at the same time, it's able to offer more affordable housing than any other development that is not subsidized in the city of Evanston. So I support the project. I hope that others do as well. I think it'll be a significant improvement to Evanston, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on my list is Claire Wastel. Ms. Wastel?
Hi, good evening. Since this is a plan commission meeting, I'm choosing to focus on the zoning ordinances, and I refute the claim that this proposal is, quote, compatible with the character of the existing development in the immediate vicinity, and I assert that it is of such a nature as to exercise influence with height, bulk, and scale. I live within 500 feet of the proposed project, and I'm a neighbor of the Pearlman. If you approve the zoning amendment, the special use permit, and the 5 site allowances, the character of this low-rise residential block will be completely and permanently changed. Allowing the developer to perform, in their words, gymnastics to get around Evanston zoning ordinances would be a dangerous precedent to set. The developers shared this image for the scale and context at the September 9th Plan Commission meeting. This blue is the existing 11-story Pearlman, and the glass and brick on the 3 sides is their proposed new building. It would clearly impose height, scale, and bulk on my neighbors in the Pearlman and the 2.5-story building that abuts the lot. It would be the view for the 2 to 4-story brick buildings and houses on Sherman, which come to here. I do not see this as compatible with the character of the immediate vicinity. This amendment would provide an example of how to get around Evanston zoning and would establish a height precedent for others to cite, just as this developer is doing. Your current decision relies on evidence presented that the link to the west was changed to C1A to build the tallest building in that zoning, and the planned development for their own building allowed the 11-story to the north. It would be called the Emerson, but it has a Sherman Avenue address. It would impose a building that is more than double the height allowed and would bring commercial zoning to this entirely residential block of Sherman, therefore permanently changing the character of the immediate vicinity rather than protecting it. I ask you to uphold the current R6 zoning and allow expansion of the Pearlman within the R6 guidelines. Thank you.
Let's see. Next on my list is, no, where'd it go? Linda Dobosc, Ms. Dobosc.
Thank you. I'm working out again. Trying to double task all these city meetings. I just want to be able, again, to echo our previous CW, Ms. W on, and Ms. Claire Kelly. You know, I'm not a fancy girl that's going to sit here and draw a 15-minute talk or anything. I'm just very raw about things. This building is not sustainable for Evanston. Right now, we're in the middle of COVID. We shouldn't be making these type of decisions. And if we are going to be making these decisions, we need to be responsible, and we need to look at what's really needed when it comes under the clause of affordable housing. And it's really about the children, and it's really about the families that attend the schools here. I know that this is not your business right now. I know that's something that y'all have done in the past. I know it's something different that you're looking at numbers and the city's knocking on your doors, asking you to build on your own property, and it looks beautiful and glimmering and it's shiny with diamonds. But I am gonna assure you, as I age here, and I'm 46, I do not want to see another building on the corner without any type of aging in place for our residents, our adult children, and seniors to retire in. Mixed housing and affordable housing, those numbers are just very blurred. And I would like to see a little bit more transparency with the 1% developer. And I really believe that we should be asking questions, because it's not your tax dollars, Mr. James. You don't live here. You don't raise your family here. And I'm just saying your name because I've heard your name many times.
I do live here.
Do you live here?
I do.
Okay, good. So you live here. So this will be your tax dollars as well, but you're getting a return on investment. We're not. We're looking out for our community members. We have connections for the homeless, but I'm sure that can fill that 51 units. And that's who it needs to go to. It needs to go to the city of Evanston to make sure, not anyone else in Cook County. See, there's a problem here. We're not taking care of each other. So my last comment here is we do not need another senior affordable housing. We don't, unless we're looking to gentrify 2 and 5 and having to then place them somewhere else. We need to take care of our future, the children, COVID, no places to live. If that's the case, affordable housing, You know, the Orrington did a great job of housing so many people that didn't have nowhere to live. That's what we need to focus on.
Oh, Ms. DeVos?
Yeah, I'm here. So that's just to say, that's what we need to focus on. I appreciate it that y'all came to the table, that you answered the door when the city of Evanston called you to do this. I'm a little discouraged that you did not use a minority woman in business to do any of your landscaping or any tree buying, all those fancy trees and everything. I'm from Texas, so you can hear my Texas slur sometimes. You know, we really need to refocus this, and we need to step aside. It's COVID. We don't need to be talking about this at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 midnight. We need to be focusing on our community and learn how to rebuild it. Have you seen our business district? It's not beautiful. This is not going to help our business
I
district.
need you to finish up.
I'm finished. Thank you. Good night.
All right, thank you. All right, next on my list is Cecil McHugh.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Just technicality, but my name is Cecile.
Cecile.
Just so if we meet again, I may as well straighten that out, and I'll go as fast as I can. My name is Cecile McHugh, and I'm the owner of a property within 500 feet of 1900 Sherman. I attended the North Downtown Plan meetings, one outcome of which was that both sides of the 1900 block of Sherman were to be excluded from the area considered to be North Downtown in order to protect the character of both sides of the 1900 block of Sherman by discouraging increased density on this block. The immediate surrounding area on all sides of the 1900 Sherman lot contains residential buildings, all of moderate height, with the exception of the Link. The Link, formerly zoned as C1 to provide a spot for convenient stores for nearby residents, was changed to a C1A zone when it was built. Having also attended the meetings related to the Link project, I can confirm that as a result of these meetings, the number of stories of the Link were constrained to not exceed the number of stories of the Pearlman building. A 16-story additional building at 1900 Sherman would be higher than any building in all directions in the immediate area, higher than any building on the north side of Emerson, and would drastically increase the density at this corner in our residential neighborhood and would therefore contradict the outcome of the carefully considered North Downtown Plan. I applaud you for rejecting the 17-story, high-rise proposed for development at 1621 Chicago Avenue based upon it being too high for the area it is in. It was, which is downtown. I implore you to also reject the 16-story high-rise proposed to be added to the lot at 1900 Sherman. The building proposed to be added to the 1900 Sherman lot is even more outsized for our neighborhood around 1900 Sherman outside downtown than the building proposed for 1621 Chicago was for that downtown area. I have numerous concerns regarding this building, including traffic is already stopping going west on Emerson at rush hour between Maple and Green Bay Road. I heard that a traffic analysis was done at the intersection of Sherman and Emerson, but the congestion of traffic accumulates going west on Emerson during rush hour to the point that it is stop and go between Maple and Green Bay Road, and it can take 15 minutes to get through the stretch of road at rush hour. Seniors do drive. Some absolutely have to drive to go anywhere, and most all would need to drive for groceries, and parking is scarce in the neighborhood.
Ms. McHugh, I need you to finish up.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. One thing I want to say is that seniors, given COVID-19, really aren't looking to move into high rises right now. And if they're not interested in renting, won't the building become a student high rise like the Link did? Or would the building be sold, and would a new owner be held to having affordable housing or to having housing for seniors? And the last comment, sorry to extend my time, was why wasn't a community meeting held to discuss these and many other concerns that the neighbors have? Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Next on my list is Mary Rosinski.
Hi. I'm very much in favor of affordable housing. I think Evanston needs it. As I said earlier, I'm very concerned about the lack of equity in our affordable housing. I think we need special consideration in Evanston to take into consideration the difference in AMI. But I think as much as it would be nice to have a project, I agree with Bruce and CW and everyone who says, you know, we have a zoning code. I think we need to readdress our zoning code and have a plan before we tie up developers and all of this, going things totally outside our zoning plan. I just think it's crazy. You know, we keep doing this over and over and over again, and it wastes time of the developers. It costs a lot of money. It wastes time of the residents. It takes up a lot of space, and it takes staff time. So we never codified the plans, and it seems crazy to change to a zoning use that we're not going to even be doing what that zoning use needs. So I would tend to stay with what the other residents nearby say. And I would encourage that our staff go back and get city council to change the zoning with community input, and then allow developers to come and work within the confines of what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosinski. Next on my list is Jacqueline Eddy.
Hi, my name is Jackie Eddy. I live at 418 Church Street in Evanston. I've been a resident of the First Ward for over 30 years. I strongly support the proposal for the development at 1900 Sherman. What a great model to create affordable housing in a way that will not segregate people based on income levels. On their website, the City of Evanston states a vision to create the most livable city in America that celebrates the diversity of the city's residents and is a vibrant community comprised of many strong neighborhoods, races, religions, and income levels. In 1996, the Plan Commission gathered community input on why people choose to live in Evanston. Residents offered up 45 unaided reasons on this that weren't on the initial survey. Most of those were mentioned by 1 to 13% of respondents, except for population diversity, which was cited by 27% of respondents as a reason they choose to live in Evanston. The city's 2000 comprehensive housing plan states that Evans should work to address concerns about cost and affordability. New development and renovation should be supported, as should increasing the supply of affordable housing. Housing units for Evanston's elderly residents and for those residents with special needs are important components of this housing stock. I believe the unique community character of our livable city that celebrates economic and racial diversity is at risk, and I support the City Council for making affordable housing one of its top priorities. I'm extremely proud to live in a city that is leading the country in conversation and action around reparations and the commitment made by our City Council to end structural racism and achieve racial equity. A strong commitment to create affordable housing options across our community will be one of the most effective tools we can use toward our reparations efforts. If Evanston wants to maintain its special character, we should all support these types of proposals and put teeth into our commitment as the first city in the country to adopt and implement a plan for reparations. This is the Evanston I know and love and want to continue to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eddy. Next on my list is Sue Lowellbach. Ms. Lowellbach.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sue Lowellbach from Connections for the Homeless, and I lead a coalition called Joining Forces for Affordable Housing. Joining Forces supports the City of Evanston in making affordable housing one of its top priorities for the year. And because we support this goal, we also strongly support the Housing Authority of Cook County development at 1900 Sherman. First, I'd like to make the point that the Age-Friendly Evanston report presented to City Council about a year ago showed a huge need for affordable housing units specifically for seniors. This building will help to meet that need. Second, we've heard concerns tonight that the building does not have enough affordable units. I also would like to see more. However, I also know that there are no easy and legal ways to create new affordable housing in the numbers we want and need, given the complexities and obstacles created by our finance, tax, and legal systems, as well as the real estate and land markets. This development on Emerson will increase the amount of affordable housing for low-income people in Evanston by 34 units and increase the amount of middle-income housing by 17 units. This is more than any other effort has created in the more than 10 years since I first started working on this problem, and more than anything else being proposed will do. Instead of just tweaking something, paving the way, or piecemealing the solutions to the problem, the Housing Authority has found a way to create affordable housing. They are actually doing it. For me, that's enough to urge you to support this development. Last, we have also heard concerns that the building is too large and too dense, leading to the ongoing concern that the character of Evanston is changing. We believe that the design of the building with the city's oversight will responsibly address the impacts of increased density. And we hope that the building will change the character of Evanston by providing greater housing choice for people of lower economic means. We ask that you provide a recommendation in favor of the 1900 Sherman building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lolbach. Next on my list is Bonnie Wilson.
Wait a minute. Hi, I'm Bonnie. Can you hear me? And can you see me?
Can't see you, but I can hear you. Oh, it looks like, no, can only hear you.
Can you see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Wilson. I live in the first ward. Can you hear me? Yep. I live in the first ward. I'm a member of the Joining Forces for Affordable Housing Committee that Sue Lewinbach just mentioned. I also was a member of the Age-Friendly Task Force Housing Committee and have been a member of other various affordable housing committees in Evanston for the past 10 years. I have lived in Evanston for 47 years and been a realtor in Evanston for over 35 years. I am also a senior real estate specialist. As a realtor in Evanston, I have seen many of my senior clients over all these years who have raised their children in Evanston and not being able to afford to pay the rent in Evanston anymore. I have worked closely with the staff of the CJE Senior Life organization in them asking me to help the senior clients to find affordable rental apartments in Evanston, which is close to transportation and shopping. Usually, I have to tell their clients, I mean, all the time, not usually, but all the time, I have to tell their clients that there is not housing available in their price range in Evanston and not in an elevator building, which they need. 1900 Sherman development would be the perfect solution for my clients and other seniors who want to live in Evanston in affordable rental apartments. I encourage the commissioners to support this development at 1900 Sherman. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list is Larry Donahue.
Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Donahue. I'm the chair of Evanston's Housing and Homelessness Commission, and I strongly support the project that the Housing Authority of Cook County is proposing for 1900 Sherman. The main reasons I support this project are these. First, the project will provide a significant number of new affordable units for seniors in Evanston. There is an acute need for more affordable housing in Evanston in general, but one demographic group that is facing an especially acute shortage is seniors, including low-income seniors. We on the Housing and Homelessness Commission learned of this through a presentation by the Age-Friendly Evanston Task Force back in January. We learned that in 2024, about 1,500 households aged 75 and over will have annual incomes of $40,000 or less annually. Currently available and proposed affordable units for seniors in Evanston will total only about 160 units. So there is an acute need. Second, the project is self-sustaining financially as it is mixed income and hence will require no financial contribution from the city. But there's a third benefit that I think is quite important and speaks to what I believe are core values of life in Evanston: diversity and equity. On this point, it is good to have affordable housing available throughout Evanston to provide choice for Evanstonians of all income levels and all racial and ethnic backgrounds. So much of Evanston's affordable housing stock is currently concentrated in just a few areas in our city. The 1900 Sherman building is in a different area, the first ward, and so it will provide some affordable housing, some choice outside of those areas. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next on my list is Melinda Russo.
Hi, my name is Melinda Russo, and I live in Evanston with my husband and young daughter. And I support the Housing Authority of Cook County's proposed development at 1900 Sherman. I appreciate that expand affordable housing options is one of the 5 goals for this year in the City of Evanston strategic plan. And I believe that supporting this project is an opportunity to take action on this goal. The affordable units in this development will provide housing opportunities for senior citizens in a location accessible to downtown shops, public transportation, the library, and other amenities. The project is mixed income, which will be financially sustainable. This is a step towards creating the Evanston that my family believes in, a city where we care for all people in our community, particularly those who find themselves in vulnerable situations, a city where we respect and support our senior citizens, and a city in which we truly value racial, ethnic, and economic diversity. I strongly encourage you to vote in favor of the 1900 Sherman project. Thanks very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Russo. Let's see, and next on my list is Libby Hill.
Okay, my name is Libby Hill. I live at 2715 Woodland in the 6th Ward, but I'm representing Bird Friendly Evanston, and I'm more talking about the design of the building. We've had correspondence, and I had hoped that I would be able to ask questions from the developers, but I didn't fit into the first question period, so I'm not really quite sure how to approach this. There is, in the wonderful design of the building, there is a wonderful curve that's made of glass. And we have asked the developers whether this is a problem, will be a problem for birds, because birds will look at this corner, and if it's a see-through corner, which it appears to be, they'll just hit the windows and die. And we're trying to prevent that. We're trying to encourage bird-friendly design. And I know that the developers have very nicely and cooperated with us to make the balconies bird-friendly and to make the lower part of the building bird-friendly. But this is an answer that we just don't seem, the question that we don't seem to be able to get an answer to is whether this is going to be a see-through corner or not. And they were going to get back to me, but never did. So what we need is an answer to a question, except that this is a comment period. So I'm not really quite sure how to present this.
Well,
I wonder if I can get an answer.
It's not really appropriate right now, but there will be a time for the applicant to finish up their presentation or have a final word, and we'll hope that they address that issue when that time comes. Okay, Ms. Hill?
Okay. Well then that's the end. Those are the end of my concerns here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. James Edgren.
Yes, my name's Jim Edgren, and I'm a resident of the Sherman Gardens project. When we originally bought into here, there was a 2-story building where the link is. Since they built the link, it's created more of a wind effect. When there's strong winds, it's hard to walk down the alley, sometimes down the street when it's a strong wind. So I look at this building and see that 16 stories tall and very massive in terms of the sides of it. I'm afraid that it's going to be quite a creation of a wind tunnel. We used to live on Sheridan Road in Chicago. And one of the reasons why we bought up here was to get away from those kind of wind tunnels from those tall high-rise. This looks like it's going to be another tall and wide high-rise, which is create a lot of wind around here. So, and I understand it's going to be for senior citizens, but they're going to have a hard time going out with the wind howling between the Pearlman and the 16-story building, and then across the street, our 7-story building, and then the Link, you know, with its 8 stories. It's going to be quite a wind tunnel around here, and I'm quite concerned about this. And when I originally heard about this building, the first proposal I heard was not going to be at 16 stories. It was going to be more on the proportions of the Pearlman project. And I thought, well, okay, I could live with that. But now I'm looking at this new thing, and it looks massive compared to the Pearlman. I'm really concerned about that. And we've already got quite a few senior city housing on Emerson already. There's the Pearlman. There's going to be this. There's another one at Maple and Emerson. There's another one about 4 blocks further down on Emerson. You know, so why don't some of these projects get spread around the rest of downtown, or the west, a little bit west of downtown, or south of downtown? Looks to me like there could be some land around there too. So anyway, that's enough for me, I think. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Evergreen. Claire Kelly, you are next on my list. Ms. Kelly?
Yes, I'm here, sorry.
Great.
Okay, so first, we desperately need affordable housing units in this town, and we can see the demographics of this town has changed and everything else. Affordable housing units is not exclusive concept to providing buildings that mesh well with the neighborhood. We all act like we're this blighted city and we just got to take anything. We can have affordable housing units, and we can have buildings that work well with the city, that are appealing, that are aesthetic, and that don't ruin the nature of a neighborhood. And we go on like this is the only way we can get it, is to build this huge glassy building that resembles something more like would be out at O'Hare. And furthermore, you know, this idea that, oh, they're going to meet our IHO. Well, it's a planned development. We actually have the right, our city council, our representatives have the right to, they could ask for 30%, they could ask for 40%. So let's like not make it like it's their right to just give us this amount and aren't we lucky? No, we could ask for a lot more if we wanted to. So I just want to be clear, like when you're a planned development, we can ask for whatever we think we need for you to break our zoning rules. And you know, it's not like, oh, isn't this great? They're not going to give us a fee in lieu. They're going to put the units in there. No, I mean, you're asking for huge variances to our zoning against what the neighbors would like to see. And I'm also really concerned about this notion, this private, can you please, before it ends, give us a few examples of similar developments where you have partnered with a private developer at a 1% or whatever ownership before this is over tonight, so that the residents can at least look at these establishments that the HACC has done in partnership with private companies, private developers. I think we should be able to see that and look at how that's worked, because right now you've said over and over again, Mr. I forget your name, from the HACC, that you rely on the rental of these luxury units to pay for these affordable housing units, which we desperately need. Now, I'm questioning that because our city's own website says that our vacancy rate is like 20%. 20%. So I don't know what market analysis you've provided, but I do hope it is up on the website. I want to look at, does it conflict with the cities? Because how are you going to rent out those units when our own city is saying like 20% of these, we have a vacancy rate? So I even question the viability of the HACC even providing these units. I even wonder if we wouldn't be better off with a private developer, because then at least we can get, it's guaranteed. These are taxpayers paying for this, for its HACC to go into this venture to rent out luxury units when our city already has an enormously high, even I think it's even much higher than what the city's saying, vacancy rate. I mean, this just doesn't seem like a really solid plan and a good way to be using taxpayers' dollars. We should have Why can't we build, we should be able to build an affordable housing, HACC should give us a building of entire affordable housing units within our zoning. That's what HACC is supposed to do. Not, clearly who does stand to benefit with no doubt is this developer. I mean, he's going to benefit, he's going to take our tax dollars. We have no guarantee that you're going to be able to rent out units at luxury rates to then provide, you say you depend on those. I'm really concerned about this venture. I question it, and I absolutely want you to provide us with other examples so that we as residents can look at it. And additionally, yes, we had no community meeting to ask questions. Our aldermen, we had nothing in the first ward where we could go in and question this. I mean, this is it. I mean, this is really not a way to run an operation.
Right.
And
I need to finish. 2 minutes has gone up. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, you don't have anything else? Just really quick to finish, or you're good? Okay. All right. That ends.
Sorry, I did. I just wanted to say, I live right near, I'm on Colfax Street, and we have a lovely HACC unit right behind us. Entirely 100% affordable housing units, love it. This is my neighbor. And also Noy Street. That was a building, a brick building, not a glassy building, nice brick building that met our IHO and met the zoning. It can be done. This isn't a blighted city. We're not in Gary, Indiana. Come on, guys. Can we show a little more respect for the town and for our residents, our low-income residents at the same time? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. All right. That is the end of my.
I'm sorry. I signed up also.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I don't have you on my list, but you can be the first one that's not on my list to have your comment.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened because I did fill that out. Yeah, I would agree. Affordable housing is absolutely needed in the city of Evanston, but it really has to balance with our zoning, with the Plan Commission's, the standards and conditions that you guys are charged to follow. I don't think you can go off the track because of one building has a characteristic or not, especially in this case let's look at it, it's 70% luxury. Unfortunately, this building, the first version, there was supposed to be 50% of missing middle units, and instead it got reduced down to 10%. So this is primarily a luxury building. It really does not give a trump card to forego our zoning to this level. I mean, the height is 100% higher. This is a residential zoning area. And really an important thing that I ask you to remember is the context of where this development is. It's an important site because it's a huge jump, as this side of Emerson, the north side of Emerson, is the dividing line between the very dense downtown Evanston area and the residential area north of it. And what you do today will set a precedent for the future of our residential neighborhood. And what will happen is this is kind of a very vulnerable area for developers in Northwestern. This will kind of open the door north of Sherman, from north of Emerson down Sherman, to build 16-story mega developments into this area. I mean, that's why all these buildings usually are built is for Northwestern students. So please keep this in mind. And if you think it won't be a precedent, remember the controversy around, I don't think you guys were commissioners, but the 9-story Link building. This sort of jumped the shark, jumped across, and residents' fear was that it would create a precedent that developers would exploit and begin building such properties. The Plan Commission and the city assured us, no, this was not the case because it's an existing property here. It was a special situation. It was zoned commercial already, and there was a reason. Yet here we are. That is being used as a precedent to go to 16 stories. I ask you to hold the developers to a 10-story building. Hold them to what is reasonable. That's even higher than the zoning, but it's reasonable to the area. I also talked to the developer about pursuing low-income tax credits to help bring the height down so it's a win-win. I talked to the developer about a model like on Howard Street, and Well, there's a 60 unit senior low affordable housing unit that was just approved on Howard. It's about to be built that used low income tax credits and city money. Also, this developer did the same in Chicago Heights. It's a 4-story, completely affordable housing property. This should be maybe in addition to Pearlman. Send back to the developers to get it lower, or conditionally approve it that it must be maintained at 10 to 12 stories. Your charge again is the zoning and the standards, and in every single case, it's almost ridiculous how many sets of standards you'll have to go to because of the zoning gymnastics. But if you look in the staff report, in every single case, it says
time is up.
Scale and mass is not in the line of the immediate vicinity. It's not compatible. Again and again, it's not compatible. So, okay, so I ask you to please keep it to a reasonable level. This is a primarily luxury. Just one more thing. This is the city's report of vacancy of the luxury housing, and it does say 18.7% vacancies in these new buildings in 2019. This is a brand new report. So these vacancies of the luxury buildings are very high. So, okay, I will stop there and ask for to really keep in mind the zoning and why you are here. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kelly. All right. Does anyone else want to digitally or manually put up their hand? Tony Ray, I see your hand up.
Yes, I am a senior, and I'm also on Joining Forces for Affordable Housing. I did write a comment a couple of days ago, and it doesn't seem to have gotten to you, so I wonder if there's a problem with your system.
We received your comment. It was included in a packet of comments that were
okay.
To the commissioners.
Thank you. I think this is an important building to be built, and I think it would be useful if the commissioners checked into what's been going on in Vienna, Austria, where they have had these multi-income buildings for about 100 years with great success. I like the idea of it being multi-income, not just one big affordable housing building. It really works well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Mrs. Edgren, looks like you had your hand up.
Yes, and it's Ava Messick. I'm a Mrs.
I'm sorry. Apologies.
I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is when we first heard about the building, and I'm in Sherman Gardens, I talked to a few of the residents down. They were kind of anxious about it. Said, no, this will be good. You know, we had heard it would be approximately mirroring the Pearlman building, and we are happy to have that as neighbors. We find that to be a real asset. And I was very fond of the idea. And I talked to, I sort of thought, no, this will be good. It's going to be in scale. It'll be fine. And when we found out what the final scale was, it's not set back, and it's not just a little bit taller. It's, as everyone says, twice as tall, and much wider from the front to the back of the lot. And that's kind of annoying. That's not really going to help. The zoning variances, they're never going to go away. They're just going to increase. Those things do not back off. They go forward. And this has been built from the Link building. We're going to continue to do that. And I think that's a very apt prediction that others have said. And I feel as if it's kind of, affordable housing, but it's 2/3, more than 2/3, much more, is going to be luxury housing. It seems like a fig leaf for the luxury housing. It doesn't seem like it's really doing the job that's being emphasized here. I'd rather see the building, okay, it can be mixed use, but for that proportion is really out of whack with what's appropriate. If there's a need for an affordable housing, that's what we should be doing. especially when we're using public funds. And even if you're not issuing a bond or raising taxes, it's still public money. It's public assets that could be put otherwise into something else. And I think this whole project is missing the mark for its stated objective. Those are my major concerns. I also have another concern that we had known about it through word of mouth building. And I've got one more thing, because this is very important. We found out a couple days before the last meeting what the proposal was on a little bitty piece of paper in front of the Pearlman building, that it was like at knee height. I think that's really poor outreach for letting people know what's going on in terms of these meetings.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are there other people that would like to make a comment before I close up that portion of the meeting? I'm looking.
Can we get examples?
Oh, it looks like Saul Klibanow. You have to get yourself off mute, sir.
Good afternoon or good evening, almost good morning. I am Saul Klibanow. I am a member of the HAC board. I am an architect by training. I have been a developer of affordable housing for almost 50 years and a developer of housing in Evanston during that period of time. And I think what is often missed in this conversation is how difficult it is to develop affordable housing when you don't have resources provided by the city, the state, or the federal government, and that what you are looking to have happen can't happen without resources. And what the HAC has done is create those resources in the form of the building. Part of the height issue is that you need to have enough luxury units to develop the subsidy level to support the affordable units. It's an economic equation that, and I believe also as an architect and one who's developed in Evanston, that the view from the ground, the view from surrounding areas is hardly going to be made noticeable by the addition of 2 or 3 extra stories of height on the new addition. I strongly support the activities of HAC in this particular instance because it is probably the only way without bringing in extra outside resources to create the housing affordability that is necessary in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Killenbaugh. Let's see, are there any other comments?
Can we get examples?
Yes, I have my hand up.
Oh, Tina, yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I wanted to say that this affordable housing words are always being thrown around so loosely. And it's just something that developers are saying now in order to get their project pushed through. We still haven't addressed the concerns about affordable housing for people with children, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. All the recent developers that have built or been approved recently have studios and 1 bedroom and just a very small amount of 2 bedroom, maybe 2 or 3 out of 100 or more units. So we're really not addressing affordable housing problems. We're just using that words in order to get the project built, in order also not to pay the in lieu of money. And so I would hope that you all will really investigate your decisions about just putting up more and more tall buildings with luxury housing which is pushing the low income and minority people out of Evanston. And the height is inappropriate. And E2 already set a precedent a long time ago, and you said it wasn't going to, and everybody that comes to develop wants to be taller and taller and taller. Soon we're gonna have the Sears Tower in Evanston. It's outrageous, and you need to stop this. This is outrageous that you keep on allowing these high skyscrapers and keep throwing affordable housing words around. It is not affordable housing. Consider the people that really need affordable housing. This is 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. You cannot tell me what recent out of the Albion or the Avador or 1815 Ridge that's coming up. None of those people have any apartments for affordable housing. And you cannot say that you can't do this without putting all this money in. I've been providing affordable housing for over 50 years here in Evanston, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom for people, and I have never gotten any help from the city or anybody else. So if you can't put it in the bank or yourself, then don't build it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Payton. Let's see. I'm going to go through it one more time. If you have your hand up at this point and I don't see it, please just take yourself off mute and say, I'd like to have an opportunity to make a comment. All right, hearing none, we will close that portion of the meeting up. At this point, I would ask if the applicant has any further comments, if they'd like to respond to any of the comments or make any kind of final appeal in their cause.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you for having us back this evening, and appreciate everybody's comments. Certainly we know there's a lot of emotion on both sides, and we do understand it. We do understand both sides of the issue. This is a very bold proposal. There's no question about it. For a public agency to take something like this on, it is outside of the norm, to be sure. But I think, I really want to attach myself to the comments of our 2 commissioners, who I think spoke very eloquently about the need and the wisdom of doing a project this way. This is an absolute leveraging of a resource a public body is very fortunate to have, which is land in a good area. That's what we're leveraging here. That's why we're not building a 4-story building here like we're doing in other parts of the county. We're building to the area. We have a parcel that we can leverage. And the only way to leverage it without any subsidy is by building market rate units that, in essence, pay for. That's what we're talking about here. The market rate units pay for 51 apartments that are affordable. 34 for very low income people, 34 for very low income people, and 17 for average folks that really need it. And I want to say this, I don't really want us to get thrown off track with red herrings. And the whole issue of the private developer is a total red herring. This is a public project that I stand behind. And this is the Housing Authority's endeavor. We're not selling this property. We're constructing this property to be a benefit to the city of Evanston. And I believe the architecture and the design standards that we're going to meet here are going to be a benefit to the community. I understand the height. If we could build a smaller building and make it work financially, we would do it. But fact is, in order to do something this bold, we need this kind of density. And it is bold to put 51 apartments that are affordable into a high income area, especially for a public agency. So while I understand the comments and concerns raised by some of the neighbors, I think the public benefit here for Evanston outweighs and actually supports the amendment to the zoning code.
Thank you, Mr. Minacchio. Did you have any interest in responding to the bird-friendly
Sure.
question?
Ms. Hill. Yeah,
Yep.
we have talked to Ms. Hill, and I'm sorry we didn't get back to you on your last question. Is Greg on the line with us today or not? Bill?
Rich, I am here if you can hear me.
Greg, could you address the
Hi.
issue of the see-through corner, please?
Yeah, and I apologize for not getting back clearly too. I did respond in part. We don't consider that to be a see-through corner because there will be multiple interior partitions intersecting that glass at the curve. So that should restrict views through the glass to the other side. I think what she might be referring to is I had offered to check one of our other projects that had a similar curved facade, and they just haven't gotten back to me yet to see if they've had any issues because we felt it might be a similar condition. But to answer your question about being see-through, we with those interior partitions, I don't see that being the case.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
All right, with that, we will move to commission deliberation. Commissioners, how would you like to begin?
Could I begin by asking a question of the developer?
Please.
Obviously, height is a big issue here, and zoning and what you're asking for. I'm just wondering, given the economics, and I understand about how in a typical project how for the market rate units pay for the affordable. So we're all in favor of having more affordable. So I do understand those economics, but given that there's concern about height, is there any way that you can change your pro forma? For example, like you said, the no subsidies. Well, maybe pursuing some subsidies, or instead of providing the units on site, providing them off site, which might be cheaper, to lower the building. Are there any other things you could pursue that would give us the affordable and allow you to build affordable in some way, but lower the height of the building?
Well, thank you for the question. We did consider some different models early on, but to be honest, it became clear that if we were going to make this building work financially and bring affordability to scale, that we do need 15 floors of residential housing. So, to change it at this point, Commissioner, as we are pretty far along in the design and very far along in the financing of the project, would really be very difficult, if not impossible for us. I do respect the question, but we've been going down this path for quite a while now, and we're with the city's blessing, hopefully, we will be in the ground. So it would really be a 180-degree turn for us to do something like that.
I guess what I'm asking is, and I don't mean as this is a threat at all, but you and I don't know how the Plan Commission is going to vote, and I certainly don't know how the City Council is going to vote. But would looking at these things be an alternative to not doing the project at all? That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, I have to. We worked very hard on this, and we've had dozens of conversations in the community, Commissioner, and this is the path we're on. So if by some unfortunate, for some unfortunate reason, the city of Evanston did not approve this project, I have to be honest, I'm all in on this. I haven't given a whole lot of thoughts of what the alternative is. I would have to go back to the drawing board.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There have been a number of issues raised throughout the two meetings. What stands out to you commissioners? I'll just start, and I'm not sure how many of us were on the commission when the I think it's called the Link, just west of this property, was being considered. It came to us under came to the commission under 2 or 3 different iterations, and what I will say is that the final design was probably the worst design that was presented to us, but it checked other boxes that were of significant concern, and ultimately, the biggest issue was the height. And I think a few people today have referenced those meetings, and I was at those meetings, and the height was a significant factor. And the developer did lower the height, and they ultimately got a building that I think probably wasn't as well, definitely wasn't as attractive as the buildings that were proposed previously on that site. But I will say that I do think that a 16-story building at this site is probably asking a little too much of the neighborhood. I think the project, I think the whole concept of what HACC is trying to do here is laudable. I'm in favor of it. I hope it happens here, and I hope it happens in numerous other places. I hope this is a wake-up call to our governments to provide more funding to allow the HACC to enter into actual partnerships with developers to help subsidize affordable housing in new developments, instead of getting the fees in lieu. I don't know how much of the fees in lieu that our city has spent. I don't think it's much, and it sort of defeats the purpose of wanting affordable housing. So the entire concept of what the HACC is doing with their site, I'm all for it. But where I sort of draw the line is that we're looking at this from a zoning perspective and how it affects the area, and I do think 16 stories is too tall. I don't know where I would draw the line. I don't know if 11 would be better, if 12 would be better. I probably wouldn't consider 12 to be too high, given the other benefits that are being provided by this project. But I think 16 is too high. So, I mean, what do the commissioners think about, the development as a whole? Any design issues, height, bulk? What are your thoughts?
I have a few comments.
Please.
Chair Isaac, I think there's so much in this project that's easy to like. I commend them for putting together a concept which I think could work very well. And for that reason, I'd love to see it move forward, as you say. I have a couple of small concerns with the design, but I don't think they're that relevant. I think the key issue is how many zoning changes should we allow to get a building like this in place? We've talked about transitional neighborhoods. You want to preserve character. You also want to allow the city to grow, and that's important. And getting rid of a parking lot and having a building like this there is certainly a wonderful way to begin to see that growth happen. I'm a little torn here because I'm concerned about the balance between the public benefits and the size and mass of the building, and mostly just what it does to the neighborhood that exists there now. I think it's a great building. I just am not sure it's the right building for that space, for that place. A wonderful project, but again, I'm concerned about the bulk, and I'm concerned about the zoning changes we sort of have to go through to make this work. And those are my comments.
I'd like to talk a little bit about what Chair Isaac mentioned about the link. I wasn't part of the commission when that project went through. I observed it peripherally. But this kind of thing, what happened to the link, always happens in my experience looking at projects in Chicago as well, which is that the developer comes in with a building that's a certain height, and it's usually nicely proportioned, and it allows a plaza on the ground floor, which this building does also, and then everyone gets crazy about the height. And the developer comes back and says, okay, we'll lower it and chop off some floors. And what you get is a big, fat, dumpy building, which is kind of, I think, what happened on the link. So that just happens over and over again. So personally, I am not generally, I don't generally think that height is the biggest issue. Although I think in this case, we do have to look at the zoning, and that the ask is 100% higher than the zoning allows, and that's huge. That's huge. It's interesting though. The other thing I think about is this idea of transition, and we had a similar case come up on Chicago Avenue where we did not approve that project, and other people can help me with this, but understanding this, but in that case. It was a tall building, and then directly to the east was a 2-story building. When I look at this site, it's a little bit different in that there are 9-story buildings or that height around this project, and so the transition to the residential neighborhood of 2 and 3 stories is more gentle than the Chicago site. So in that sense, I think it's a better situation, although I still have a problem with the 100% ask on the height.
Thank you, Commissioner Halleck.
And I'll follow on with Commissioner Halleck's comments there. I agree with what's already been stated. The ask for raising it to 16 stories does seem to be a little bit out of proportion for that area. There's definitely is already a precedent for large residential towers in Evanston. And because there's that precedent that's already happened, I'd say that's where we're moving towards. But I do see a line from Sherman Avenue, I believe. Yeah, once you get east of Sherman, it does feel a lot different. So this is right on the cusp where it's feeling like, okay, 16 is a little bit too high for that corner. But I do like a lot of things in the set, some of the characters of the building. I like how it's angled on the corner, and I think it does a nice with the roundabout porte cochere. The public amenity space on the ground floor, I think, is really generous and great to have a setback. I guess I would love to see if this building interacted a little bit more with the existing housing that it's right next to. It just seems like it's very separate, that this is the luxury building and that's the public housing, and that there's no connection. They can't use the spaces like that. I feel like is a big missed opportunity. But I also really applaud the idea that we're adding these affordable units. The middle income units, I think, is also a benefit. And And that can also help really have these people stay there long term. I mean, those are going to be great units once you get in there, and we want long-term residents. So, I mean, there is a lot of great benefits, but again, I am a little bit torn here with 16 stories, you know, how everything around there, that's like 9, 10. So I'm in the same boat there.
Thank you, Commissioner Draper. Any other open comments?
Commissioner, can I make a comment?
I'm sorry, Mr. James. It's
okay.
Commissioners only at this point.
Chairman, if I could, I actually support this project. I think we have a low-income housing issue in Evanston. We need to address it. As many have expressed, I'm concerned about the height as well. And I think your point in terms of this being a wake-up call, needing additional federal, state, whatever funds for low-income housing is well taken, but that's not the world we live in. I think we have to sort of deal with the reality that faces us. All these projects require trade-offs. None of them are perfect. As all the commissioners have indicated, I'm also torn. It's not a slam dunk one way or another for me, but 51, low and missing middle housing units is an attractive proposition. And I think if the height drops, as I understand it, to even 12, the numbers don't work. The economics don't work. And so for that reason, again, not an easy call. I'm very much in favor of this, on balance, in favor of this proposal. And I want to also salute the Housing Authority for its creativity in coming up with this mechanism in the face of of a lack of other alternatives to get us to where we get 51 additional low and middle housing units onto the market. So I very much support this proposal. Not an easy call, but I'm in favor.
Thank you, Commissioner Hugo. I'm sorry, is there a commissioner that'd like to speak? Time? Commissioner Johnson, go ahead.
Yes, I'm also in support. I second a lot of things that Commissioner Hugo said, and I wanted to add to that by pointing out that this development does support mixed use goals of our community. It supports walkability and increased transit usage, it being in a very transit accessible location. And while there certainly are trade-offs with any development and the resistance to height, I think that Commissioner Halleck raises a very good point that we have to think about a taller, more slender, better designed, and better aesthetically pleasing building versus a short and squat pancake of a structure. There is a trade-off, and that a shorter building is not always by knee-jerk a better building. So in all, this certainly isn't a perfect proposal, but for those reasons mentioned, I do support this.
Commissioner Johnson, I have a question, and this isn't really a question for all the commissioners, but because you touched on it for a second. There were comments by some of the members of the public about how because this is it's a residential only building, we shouldn't consider a zoning change from R6 to a commercial district, to C1A. Just wanted to know what you thought about that.
The fact that because it's residential only, it's inappropriate in a C1A zone.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is that the zoning code allows for residential only buildings in C1A. Right? This is not something special in that regard. But I think some of the issues that the public had were changing the zoning from residential to commercial and then only providing residential units on the site. Do you see that as an issue?
I see that as something that should, amongst those individuals who are against this development, the fact that the project asks for the ability to put in a more intensive use, the commercial use, but decides not to and goes with residential only, should be seen as something as a relief to those individuals that are against this. You know, having an apartment building only without any retail generates less traffic, less activity, less noise, less garbage, less loading. So, you know, if I were someone that was on the fence about this project, it being truly mixed use within one building, and then heard that the developer actually plans to only do residential with it, which is lower impact, I would take that as a relief.
Okay, that's a good point. Any other items of discussion or questions from the commissioners? All right. Should we?
I just had one question, if I could, Chairman, to the applicant. What is the height level at which it becomes economical? What's the minimum? What's the sort of minimum height level at which it becomes economically feasible? Do you have those calculations? 14, 13, 12? I mean, what?
Well, for 51 units.
And keep 51 units, yeah.
Yeah, it's 16 stories.
It is, okay. So you've pushed it as far as you think you can push it.
But Mr. James, my presumption is that for every floor that you lose, that the number of affordable units would decrease proportionately. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, we haven't done a range of different programs to prove that's the case. I think there was some efficiency in scale that could be lost if you knock 5 stories down, for example. I don't think it's directly proportional. So the answer is we'd have to actually do pro formas for each new version of the program to really be sure of that. You know, what number of units would result in what decrease in affordable units.
So if the height got lowered, the project couldn't sustain 51 units. That much is clear. And it would still sustain a number of affordable units, but you're not sure whether it would be proportionate to the number of units lost.
Yes, yes. My suspicion is that the decrease in the total number of units would have a proportionally higher increase or decrease in the number of affordable units.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Please.
I think this is a very good point that Commissioner Hugo brought up. Because I think we're all struggling with this, and we see the advantage of affordable housing, but we have a problem with so much of an ask on the zoning code. Is it possible to I don't even know how to ask the question, to come up with a height that we would all be comfortable with, and then have the developer give us react to that in terms of how much affordable housing that would provide? I don't know procedurally how we could do this, but
I mean, there's always a way to do things. So we said in our earlier presentation last meeting, if we build lot line to lot line, we can certainly reduce the height.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would want that. And
I could jump in too, Bill, for a second. If we go lot line to lot line, you're right. I still don't think it would work, because let me just add this to commissioners. When we put this together, we didn't say, well, we're going to go for 16 and we'll take 13. We didn't do that. Maybe folks don't believe that, but we didn't. This is the height we need. And we this, we at the city's urging did not put commercial in, because, you know, if we're forced to go back to the drawing board, we will have to absolutely generate more income, and then we will absolutely take advantage of, if necessary, the commercial that we have to build. But we are not putting commercial here at the city's request. So again, I don't want to sound, you know, I appreciate the consideration here, but it truly is a totally back to the drawing board situation if this isn't approved.
Yes. And let me just say, we did initially propose an 11-story building. We tried to keep in scale with the Pearlman building, but we couldn't do it and provide the affordable housing that would make a difference in Evanston. So that's why we had to increase the height. And it is unfortunate that there's, you know, a sacrifice to be made to achieve affordable housing, but that's the reality. And we ask that you looked at this proposal holistically for both the benefits and the request for accommodation. And we think after all is said and done, 5 additional floors is not going to cause the sky to fall and the whole area to become unlivable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. James. We're going to get back to the commissioner deliberation. Scott, I think this may be a question for you. If we were to you know have a vote and approve the project but recommend a lower height, how would that procedurally work?
That's a good question. I mean, essentially you have the developments that's been presented. You know, I think you've heard from the developer their believed constraints on the development and the height. So I don't know that you necessarily have an alternative in front of you to recommend that's different than the project that's being presented.
Okay.
You know, if the applicant, you know, were requesting continuance to come back with something different, then that would certainly be a different story.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So shall we move to the standards, commissioners? I don't hear anything from you, and we're just going to move on. All right. Scott, can you put those up? Okay. So this is for plan development. Should we go in order, because we're being asked to change it to C1A first, right? And then do a plan development? Does that make sense, Scott?
Yes. Let me double check and see if the map standards are in here. Yeah, I do not, unfortunately, I do not believe they're within this presentation. I could pull those up in just a minute, though.
Okay. Okay. All right. So these standards relate to the request to amend from amend the zoning for the lot from R6 to C1A. And I'll just read it out loud. wisdom of amending the text of the zoning ordinance or zoning map is a matter committed to the sound legislative discretion of the city council and is not controlled by any one standard. In making the determination, however, the city council should, in determining whether to adopt or deny or to adopt some modification of the plan commission's recommendation, this is the right, okay, this is still for us though. We're going to consider, among other factors, the following: whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive general plan as adopted and amended from time to time by the council. Okay, commissioners, what do you think? Does changing the zoning from R6 to C1A, is it consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive general plan?
I mean, isn't there sort of a precedent for this with the link? Maybe it's not the exact zoning, but it's in the same block and it's a commercial zoning.
There was at least a portion of the link was R6, if my recollection serves me correct.
But now it's a C zoning.
Now, yeah, now as part of that plan development, we changed it to all C1A.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. This change would be consistent with that.
It would be. Any other comments or thoughts on that item? Okay, moving on. Whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the overall character of existing development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. Well, the existing building already exceeds R6 and would fall into place under the C1A. And like we just said, the property just across the alley is a C1A. Whether the proposed amendment will have an adverse effect on the value of adjacent properties. Well, the adjacent properties are the link to the north, the building that's already part of this this development. I believe the Sherman Gardens we said it's 7 stories or 7.5 stories. So I don't know that this is going to have an adverse effect on that. The adequacy of public facilities and services, solely with respect to the changing of the zoning, I don't think there is an issue there. Okay, so now Scott, back to your slides. Okay. I think it's 17 or yeah, 17.
Yes, there we go, sorry.
So planned development is a special use. And so we're gonna go through the special use standards first. First standard is, it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. Planned development is. It is in keeping with purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general. I'm sorry? It is a reminder for the non-commissioners, please have your mics on mute, please. It is in keeping with purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. I would say that's satisfied. It will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed type of special use upon the city as a whole. So in this context, we're talking about the plan development and having a plan development on this site, at least in my opinion, does not have a negative cumulative effect. It does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. The plan development doesn't, but I think there's a similar standard in the on another slide that maybe we'll expand on this, because I think there is some concern that a property of this height would have interfere or diminish the value of property. Can it be adequately served by public facilities and services? There doesn't seem to be any issue with the planned development there. Does not cause undue traffic congestion. They're putting in a porte cochere. They have they're asking for parking, but again, we're not having any commercial uses, so I don't think that there is an issue there. Preserve significant historical and architectural resources, not applicable to a parking lot, and I don't believe we've heard that there were any historical or architectural significance of the building to which this project is going to abut. Preserve significant natural and environmental features. Again, this is a parking lot, so what they're doing is actually adding natural and environmental features, and complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation, which is that's going to be satisfied. If we can go to the next slide, Mr. Mangum. Okay. As a special use, plan development involves such special considerations of the public interest that it shall be required to adhere to the specific plan development standards established in the zoning district in which it is located. Compliance with the standards shall govern the recommendations of the Plan Commission applicable to the plan development and the action of the City Council in order to ensure that an approved plan development is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. The Plan Commission shall not recommend approval of, nor shall the City Council approve a plan development unless each shall determine, based on written findings of fact, that the plan development satisfies the specific standards established in the zoning district in which the plan development is located. Okay, that is a call to action. All right, standards and guidelines for plan developments in C1A district. Each plan development shall be compatible with surrounding development and not be of such a nature in height, bulk, or scale as to exercise any influence contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance as set forth in 6-1-2, purpose and intent of this title. Okay, so here we're getting into the meat of the requests here. It's my belief that the height would not be compatible with the surrounding development, and so I would say that this condition is not satisfied. What I know there were thoughts to the contrary on the commission. Would anyone like to speak up in that regard? If someone's speaking, you're on mute. I can't see everyone right now. Hello?
I don't know what the word compatible is such a subjective word. I think to me, it's about the intent of the zoning and whether it's compatible with that, and I don't think it is.
Okay. Any other comments on this condition? Okay, we're going to move.
But it's just it's compatible based on current zoning, or compatible based if it were changed to C1A?
Well, at this point, you have to presume we're already in C1A, and we're looking at the project now, and whether the project as proposed would be compatible with surrounding development, and not be of such a nature in height, bulk, or scale as to exercise any influence contrary to the purpose and intent of the zone. Okay, hearing no other comments, we're going to move on to the next item. Each plan development shall be compatible with and implement the adopted comprehensive general plan as amended, any adopted land use or urban design plan specific to the area, this zoning ordinance, and any other pertinent city planning and development policies. Well, this site is already a mixed use. I'm sorry, not mixed use, but you know, what I would consider a commercial use with a you know, what is it, a 10-story apartment building. I don't think that the use as far as the planned development is incompatible. I would say that this standard is satisfied with respect to the with respect to the plan. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I would agree.
Any other comments from commissioners on this item? Okay. Each plan development shall be completed within 2 years of the issuance of the special use permit for the plan development. Not applicable. Well, at least, you know, they know that that's what they're going to have to do. No special use permit for a plan development shall be valid for a period longer than 1 year unless a building permit is issued and construction is actually begun within that period and is diligently pursued to completion. Okay, again, not really for us to chime in on. All landscaping treatment within the plan development shall be provided in accordance with the requirements set forth in Chapter 17, landscaping and screening of this title, and shown on the required landscape plan submitted as part of the plan development application. We saw the landscape plan. I think it's actually a pretty good one, and we haven't heard any evidence to that what they're proposing is not in compliance with our zoning ordinance. So I would say that that's satisfied. Okay. Let's see. For all boundaries of the planned development immediately abutting a residential property, there shall be provided transition landscape strip of at least 10 feet consisting of vegetative screening, fencing, or decorative walls in accordance with the Manual of Design Guidelines and Chapter 17, landscaping and screening. You know, one question I have here, and this is going to be a question for Scott, is that we're changing this lot from R6 to C1A, and to the north, if my memory serves me correctly, is we have a R6 to the north, and so does that come into play? I know the effectively the north of the Pearlman is not being touched, but you know, does this come into play here?
It's generally not applicable. The Pearlman building does provide relief from that north property line.
Okay.
But there's a significant setback from that north property line.
Okay, all right. So we're going to say that that's satisfied then. Walkways developed for a planned development shall form a logical, safe, and convenient system for pedestrian access to all dwelling units, all project facilities, as well as any off-site destination likely to attract substantial pedestrian traffic. I don't believe we've seen anything in the application or the packet or any evidence to the contrary that this is not satisfied. So I would say this is satisfied. Location, construction, and operation of parking, loading areas, and service areas shall be designed to avoid adverse effects on residential uses within or adjoining the development. And we heard at the prior meeting, we heard about how the parking and the loading worked, and I believe that it wasn't going to affect the existing link site. And I remember asking a question about that. So I would say that this is satisfied. But again, commissioners, if you have any contrary thoughts on what I'm saying out loud, please chime in. Even if you agree, feel free to chime in.
I would only say that I'm used to seeing either 2 loading areas or a larger loading area for a building of that size.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, we're getting one short.
Correct.
Do you think that a long, for what's being developed, do you think one long is really needed for a residential building? You know, I mean, does it really change or affect the operation of the building? If like 2 versus 1, I think it's a big issue. But my question is, does one long one versus one short one in this building really matter if you're only getting one?
I suspect not, because there's no commercial use. I think it's more a question of moving vans and the impact if they can't get in, impact on the alley.
Yeah, because I don't think you couldn't put 2 moving vans in one long berth.
Right.
I think I could be wrong, but I think their short berth is still 25 feet deep, and that is standard loading dock in Chicago.
Yes, it's going to be 25 feet. Yeah. Okay. All right. Principal vehicular access points shall be designed to permit smooth traffic flow with controlled turning movements and minimum hazards to vehicular and pedestrian traffic. I will say that that's satisfied. The planned development shall provide, if possible, for underground installation of utilities, both in public ways and private extensions thereof. Scott, are the utilities being buried here? I believe they probably already are with the Pearlman, and I would imagine that they're going to be in this project as well.
I think there are some utility poles in the alley. If I recall correctly, and the developer can jump in if it's different, they weren't certain yet whether those are going to have to be relocated or moved in some way, but I don't believe they were planning to underground the existing ComEd poles.
Okay. So we're going to say this is probably not satisfied. Unless, Scott, are you aware of any impediments to being able to put the utilities underground?
Other than cost, I'm not aware of that.
Thank you. For every planned development, there shall be provided a market feasibility study. That's been satisfied. For every planned development involving 20 dwelling units or more, there shall be provided a traffic circulation impact study. Scott, my recollection is not as good on that item. I believe there was one.
Correct. There's a traffic study, and then they also evaluated the parking.
Okay. The zoning administrator may, at his discretion, require of the applicant additional studies or impact analyses when he determines that a reasonable need for such investigation is indicated. I will presume that was, if requested, that the applicant fulfill that obligation. And that is the end of our standards?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so any further deliberation from the commissioners? All right, hearing none. Oh, please.
I'd just make a statement. I really would like to see a compromise here between the height and then the number of affordable units. And however that happens, I'm just saying that I think that would be a nice outcome of this.
So what you're saying is you like the project. You wish it were smaller, and you're hoping that there's some middle ground.
Right. Right.
I would concur with that sentiment. Okay, so is there a motion?
And Mr. Chair, I would suggest maybe the commission think about whether any of the commissioners would vote differently from a map amendment versus having everything in one motion. Everyone feels that they would vote the same either way, then it, in my mind, would make sense to have one motion considering all those requests. But if anyone feels differently, then this would be the time to talk about separating.
If you feel, if you're going to vote, wait, so Scott, you're saying that if someone's going to vote yes to change it to C1A, but no on the planned development, that we should separate the two?
We should probably do two.
That would allow that, yes.
I would think so. Because if you don't do the map amendment, you basically can't do any development on this parcel.
Understood. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Instead of polling the commissioners, why don't we just separate it? Why don't we just?
Yeah, I agree.
The first item. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the change of zoning for this site from R6 to C1A?
I move to change the zoning from R6 to C1A.
Commissioner Halleck's motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Draper seconds. Are there any proposed amendments to the motion? Hearing none. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, would you please call roll? And you, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Chair Isaac.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Okay. That recommendation to change the zoning for this site from R6 to C1A will be sent to City Council for deliberation. Okay, so the second half of this is the planned development. And let's see. So there is, just as a reminder, commissioners, there is the request for the planned development with the, let me see, where are the increase in the height, less parking than is required under C1A, let's see, increase the number of units, like density, doing one short loading berth versus two, and then the dimensions of the short loading berth being 10 by 25 instead of 10 by 35. And as a further reminder, that staff has set forth a number of recommendations. Should we see fit to approve? And so the motion, our motion, or I'm sorry, we should at least consider those recommendations at some point during our deliberation, or our motion practice. So with that being said, is there a motion to approve this planned development?
I move to approve the planned development.
Okay. Do you want to include the staff recommendations as part of your motion, Mr.
I was going to offer an amendment to the motion, but yeah, we can have the main. I don't know how the rest of the commissioners like to proceed, whether put on the floor the main amendment and then the main motion, and then add the staff recommendations as an amendment, or for me to move the whole package.
I would say let's, if you're willing, make your motion to approve the PD with the recommendations from staff, and then if there need to be any changes to those recommendations, we'll deal with those through amendment.
All right, so I move to approve the plan development with the 12 staff recommendations.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor from Commissioner Hugo. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Johnson seconds. Okay. Any amendments to the motion? I would propose an amendment to reduce the height of the structure from 16 stories to 12 stories. That is my motion. Is there a second?
Second. But can I make can I add to that motion?
I withdraw my motion, and you can do what you want.
I'd like to move that we add the amendment to reduce the height to 12 stories, and understand that this may reduce the amount of affordable housing as part of that move.
I second that motion. Okay. Any deliberation on the motion?
Yeah, I would not be in favor of that change, not because 12 stories is inherently bad, but it's, I don't want to lose, I personally would not want to lose that affordable housing. And we don't have a sense of to what proportion the affordable housing begins to decrease as you drop each floor. Again, this isn't a perfect solution, but I think it's the best one we have given the need for affordable housing. And if it were easy, we'd have affordable housing in Evanston, but we don't. It's tough, and history has shown it's tough. And again, here we have a creative solution that works economically. And I think we start dropping the floor, the height, we start losing that affordable housing. And again, I don't have a sense of the proportion of the loss, but this is all a trade-off. And for me, I would go for the affordable housing versus the height.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Commissioner Hugo. The lens that I'm looking at it from is that I love the project, and I want this to be built, but I feel that I feel that the height is an issue, and I don't know that the mission of the applicant should change my vote or change my feelings about the height in the neighborhood. I think that the height in general, in an effort to be as consistent and with respect to the zoning ordinance and to this neighborhood as possible, I don't think that I can in good conscience support a height that's higher than 12, and 12 is probably even pushing it for me, but I'm willing to do it because of this project, and I believe in it. But that's where I'm coming from, and I understand that it will end up being less affordable units, and that's unfortunate. But from a zoning perspective, I feel that I need to vote for at least push for a lower height. That's
So how would that work mechanically then, assuming we were to adopt it with the 12-story limit?
Well,
what happens mechanically from the applicant's perspective, and what is it we're actually approving then?
Well, remember, this is just a recommendation to the city council. And so the city council would take what we've what we've sent them, and they could very easily ask the applicant to come back to them with, okay, because this is the recommendation, if we approve it as recommended by the Plan Commission, what does it look like for us? And so I think the city council just reviews it. It's past us at that point. The city council reviews it from their perspective, and they either take our recommendation with the changes that the applicant will say have to be made as a result, or potentially the city council sends it back to us. I don't know. I'm not sure that we have. Do we have Corporation Counsel on the call with us today, Scott?
I believe Mr. George is present.
Yeah, I'm not sure that something like this happens very often. But Mr. George, do you have a thought on this? I know this is putting you on the spot somewhat here.
Yeah, can you repeat the question about? I heard it. Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is that the applicant has set forth a proposal for a 16-story building, right. And there is a motion on the floor to change the approval from a 16-story to a 12-story building. That's going to affect the number of units. It's going to affect the number of units being provided on site. It's going to affect the bulk. It's going to affect the number of units required to be provided under the IHO. It's going to affect a number of things. But in the interest of moving this forward, and we don't even know if the motion will pass. But the question was, okay, if that motion passed and the Plan Commission sent to the City Council, yes, we recommend approval of this plan development, but with 4 stories less, which changes a whole bunch of other things in the application. How would that be dealt with or resolved?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because that's fundamentally changing the proposal.
It is.
So, I guess you're free to make that amendment, to make that motion to amend it to 12, to make it to 12 stories and not make any other sort of amendments. But in reality, you are changing the proposal. And I don't know that they could come to City Council with that same proposal, just 12 stories instead of 16 stories. You know what I mean?
Well,
just as a practical matter.
Their application and their proposal would not be changed, right? They would still be going to the City Council asking for 16.
Right.
But with a recommendation from the Plan Commission to only approve 12.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chair, just thinking about the logistics and feasibility of this, the next step, whatever the recommendation is for staff and the City Corporation Council to prepare an ordinance for this. That ordinance has to identify certain site development allowances that are being requested for the proposal. So as you mentioned, changing the height of the building would have a cascading effect on the rest of the development. So there'd be less parking spaces required. The number of units would be changing. So the site development allowance would be changing in a way that we could not even calculate without revised plans.
Okay, but my devil's advocate response to that is, you still prepare that same ordinance even when we say we recommend rejection of the correct? Right. Regardless, that's what you would do. So even if we were to make a recommendation to approve but change, but approve with less height, you would still prepare the same draft ordinance, And it would be up to the city council to say, well, you know, we want to take on this recommendation from the plan commission, and, you know, staff, you know, in conjunction with the developer, come back with with an ordinance for us to review that deals with that.
Yeah, and so it's a good point. What I think is that would essentially be saying you're recommending against the project, and they should come back with a different project. And then that project would be different, would have a different site development allowances. I just think it would be difficult for the city council to consider an ordinance that has, you know, instead of 12 conditions, 13 conditions. And one of those conditions is that the building should be no higher than 12 stories, because that would then change many other aspects of that same ordinance that we would not be able to calculate. So it's up to the commission, but I would suggest that if there are members that would, you know, are uncomfortable with the height and feel they should vote against it because of the proposed height of the building, that should be, you know, a reason why you're recommending making your vote a negative vote, if that's how you feel, and you could state that, you know, what height you felt was most appropriate, level storage was appropriate, and that would be conveyed in that manner to the city council.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could, one other question to follow, and then,
Yeah,
if we were to adopt 12 stories, from what I understand from the applicant, the deal's, you're starting from scratch.
Well,
So,
no,
as I understood from the applicant. So we're in effect, they're in effect saying we got to go back to the drawing board. So we're 12 stories or rejecting it seems to be the same, if I understood the applicant's position correctly.
but Commissioner Hugo, that's why I asked the follow-up questions. What would be dead is the 51 affordable units. So the project itself would not be dead in the water. It would be, there's no way to get 51 units. So it would go down. And what Mr. James had said is, because I asked the question whether you remove a floor, are you removing a proportionate number? And he wasn't able to, he was concerned that, you know, if there's, let's say 10 floors with 5 affordable units on each floor, removing one of those floors wouldn't mean that you're only losing 5. You could end up losing 6. And that's what he wasn't able to, you know, tell us on the spot there, but that there was a concern that the efficiencies would be lost and you could lose more units proportionately.
Well, fair enough. I understand that the lower the building, obviously the less affordable units we're going to have. But is there a point where the housing authority is going to say, we're out of this thing, period? Because yes, we'll have less affordable units, whatever, but is there some point where they're just, regardless of what the mix winds up being, they just say, this isn't, you know.
I agree that that is a risk. But I would also point out that pretty much every applicant that comes before us has some version of that statement when they're requesting relief from the Plan Commission.
It sounds like maybe what the motion that we had was kind of confusing, and maybe we should just go for an up or down vote on the proposal, and then just add a recommendation separately, you know, to the city council.
Well, if
that's possible.
If that's possible. I mean, you know, we're either recommending approval or denial of the application.
Yep.
And so, you know, your comments, all of our comments will show up in the minutes, and you know, hopefully be reviewed and considered by city council. Commissioner Halleck, would you like to move forward on your motion, or would you like to withdraw it?
Withdraw it.
Okay. Are there any other amendments to the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, will you call roll?
Can you read the motion again?
Reminder: this is the motion to approve the plan development as proposed by the applicant with the 12 staff recommendations included in the packet. So a vote yes will be a vote for approval, a vote for recommendation of approval, and a vote no will be a vote for recommendation of denial.
Okay. Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
No.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
No.
Chair Isaac.
I would like to say that I'm in favor of this project, but because of the height, I feel that I feel that it's too high for the area, and therefore I have to vote no.
Okay, so that gets us
Is that a tie?
vote. Yes. 3.
And so, well, that'll show up, right? That it's tied and it's a
Correct.
it's a recommendation of denial when it's a tie, or
Essentially, there's no recommendation.
Right.
Well, there we go. It
No,
works.
there you go. That's about right.
all right. I actually like that. Okay. So to everyone on the call, thank you. I'm not sure if we have any more business, but Mr. James and Mr. Monaco, thank you very much. And good luck with the at the city council. Is there anything else on our business? I've lost my my agenda. Oh, here we go. Is there any public comment on and not related to this item? This item is past us. 20 PLND -0039 is over. So if there's public comment with some other issue, I will recognize a member of the public to have their say. Hearing none, seeing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Westerberg, is there a second?
Second.
Draper, second. We'll do it by the books this time, Ms. Jones. Call roll for adjournment.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
No, just kidding. Yes.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
and Chair Isaac.
Yes. All right. Plan Commission of City of Evanston is now adjourned. Thank you all. Take care.